Professor Shaw, you said Congress had set high standards in Rule 23 for certifying class actions. Why would we have set high standards for class actions?
So I don't think I said that, sir. Just that the Rule 23 standards are relatively demanding, that the court has ratcheted up the difficulty of satisfying them.
So, but why would we set demanding standards for class actions?
I'm not sure. The Rules Committee produces the rules, so I'm not quite sure.
But Congress adopts them.
Yes. So, I mean, you tell me, sir.
Well, there's a reason we have high standards for class actions, because it should be difficult to certify a nationwide class, and what we are seeing is single judges ignoring the federal rules of civil procedure, ignoring the rules Congress has set out for class certification, and saying, I'm just going to issue an injunction to the whole damn country, and it doesn't matter if it meets even the bare thresholds of the federal rule.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Okay, so my ongoing coverage of this particular committee hearing right here, we finally get to Senator Kennedy. Now, Senator Kennedy is a Louisiana senator, just so happens to be my senator, and I love this guy, right? Like, his voting record is meh, if you will, but I just love how he speaks. This guy speaks plainly, bluntly, and sometimes it's kind of over the top, but it's just so in your face. You gotta love it. But he makes his points quite crystal clear, even though he uses a lot of hyperbole and a lot of metaphors. But it just comes off like, I kind of wish I could speak like this guy, you know, clear as Dallas, for crying out loud. But we're going to go over this. We're going to get into it. It's going to be great. Y'all smash that like button for me. Subscribe if you're new around here. Share this video anywhere and everywhere you can. And if you would be so inclined, I would really appreciate it if you would look right below the video and click that join button. Sign up, become a member, help me deliver the best possible content I can deliver to you guys. But without any further ado, let's get it, y'all.
Senator Kennedy.
Would any of you advise a client to defy a federal court order?
No.
None of you would? How about you, Professor?
I mean, under most circumstances, we follow the government, and private parties follow court orders. I suppose it's not, I would not rule out ever the possibility that in a sufficiently egregious order, there should be some consideration of whether there's a way.
So in some cases,
I think it's a qualified answer, yes.
in some cases you would.
In an extremely narrow band of cases, I think it would be considered, yes.
Okay.
Yes, that is the correct answer, by the way, because if a judge issues a ruling, you must go out there and shoot somebody in the forehead. I'm sorry, I'm not going to follow that. If a judge orders you to break the law, you do not, that is not a lawful order. Let's keep going.
Do any of you think that nationwide or universal injunctions are not being abused?
I'm not sure what if I may, Senator, I'm not sure what the time horizon of the question is. I don't think that there could be good faith disagreements about the correctness of some of them, but I have not seen in the last 4 months abuse. No.
I've read your stuff, and I've read your writings, and I don't want to get bogged down with this, but I have little respect for your opinion, because I've read your stuff. When someone is in the White House that you agree with, and someone gets a universal injunction against him, you don't like universal injunctions. You called them judges acting like they're politicians in robes, and judges looking like crass political actors. But now that President Trump's in the White House, who you dislike, you think that universal injunctions taste like pumpkin pie. So I have to discount what you say, because I think you act on your political beliefs. And I worry that that's what you're teaching your kids. So I'll leave you out of that. Do you think nationwide injunctions are being abused?
Certainly, Senator. I think that is.
They're being abused by both sides, aren't they?
Yes, Senator.
Both Republicans and Democrats are forum shopping, aren't they?
Certainly.
Professor, do you disagree with that?
I think both sides are abusing them. I agree.
Okay. Both sides. There are no clean hands here. Now, your suggestion is that when a federal judge issues a nationwide injunction, there should be an automatic stay and an expedited right of appeal. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Do you disagree with that?
I haven't given enough thought to have a position on it, Senator.
I suspect, Professor, your answer will be it depends on who's president.
No, Senator.
Let me ask you about this. What if we had a rule? I was reading an article the other day. I'm not suggesting it. I just want your opinions. That said, if a president, any president, issues an executive order, let's say, that clearly violates settled Supreme Court precedent, that a federal judge can't issue a nationwide injunction. For example, if a federal a president issued an order that said no one in America has right to counsel any longer, including but not limited to, in a felony case, having the government pay for your lawyer if you can't afford it. That clearly violates settled Gideon v. Wainwright. In that case, a judge has no authority or does have authority to issue a nationwide injunction. But in a case where the law is unclear, a judge should refrain from that. Now, obviously, we'd have to trust our judges, but we're supposed to be able to trust them anyway. What do you think about that?
I don't agree with that, Senator, because I think universal injunctions transgress the limitations under Article 3, even if the underlying merits are clear.
I happen to agree with you. I don't think there's any basis under Article 3, under Supreme Court precedent, under the English common law for nationwide injunctions. I think politicians have helped judges, and many judges are politicians, to just make it up. And many of them are like Professor Shaw here. If they like the president, they're against nationwide injunctions. If they don't like the president, they're for him. Professor, let me ask you this while I have you.
Here's where it gets a little spicy.
On April 22nd, 2024, you said there are some members of the Supreme Court that are evil. Which justices were you talking about?
I'll take it your word, Senator. I don't recall using that word, but
All right, here's what you said. You were talking about the majority opinion in Muldrow v. City of St. Louis. You said, quote, Justice Kagan, will she be able to control the opinion's future distortion by her evil colleagues? Probably not, end quote. Who were you talking about?
sir, I'm very skeptical. If it's a transcription, it was probably a transcription error. I do not think I said.
No, you said it. Why don't you own up to it? Which you call some of the members of the Supreme Court evil. Now, which ones do you think are evil?
I would have to refresh my recollection. I've been very critical
You're
of some
embarrassed
members of the
that
Supreme
you made
Court.
that statement, aren't you?
I'm
You're an
Senator,
officer
it
of the
doesn't sound
court.
like something that
You know
I
what
would
I'm
say.
embarrassed at? That you're teaching our kids.
I don't refer to Supreme Court justices as evil in the
right here
in the classroom,
on
sir.
your podcast, April 22nd, 2024.
Okay, well,
Big as Dallas. And you're an officer of the court, and you're here advising us to be respectful to federal judges, and you say they're evil members of the United States Supreme Court? Gag me with a spoon. You're part of what's the problem in all of this.
Thank you, Senator Kennedy.
Okay, so he just, gag me with a freaking spoon. That's all I can say about that. Gag me with a freaking spoon. I love that. She is part of the problem, and he is totally correct on this. These nationwide injunctions are unconstitutional. There is nowhere under Article 3 that says that a judge has that amount of power. That's extraordinary amount of power. That affects policy. You know, Donald Trump comes out. issues an executive order, boom, nationwide injunction stopping that executive order without it even being litigated. That's the problem with the nationwide injunctions. There's no litigation. They just put a stop to it, just boom, halt it right there in its tracks. That's it. That pretty much hamstrings the administration, restrains it from doing anything, because now we have nationwide injunctions on deporting illegal immigrants, criminal aliens, for crying out loud. And look what's going on, right? Like, there's all these nationwide injunctions over several different aspects of the Trump administration's policies, for crying out loud, and it's getting blatantly ridiculous, especially when you look at the statistics and how many injunctions have been placed against Donald Trump's administration versus the previous presidents, for crying out loud, and it just gets nuts. And I love how they're breaking this down. It's clearly unconstitutional, and getting these people to admit it is hard. It's really hard to drag it out of some of these people, but the senators, they do what they can. I'm loving these hearings right here. But, we've got this situation in this country where lawfare has been weaponized strongly, and it is preventing the administration from doing its job. I mean, by God, when the Trump administration declares that it's going to use the Alien Enemies Act to remove criminal aliens that have invaded our country, have taken over apartment complexes, is running around all over the country, committing crimes, just doing whatever the hell they want to do at the behest of a foreign government, for crying out loud. Now, I know there's no, physical connections there. Like the corporate press, they say, Venezuela has nothing to do with Tren de Aragua. BS. Outright BS. The Venezuelan government released those gang members and deported them from that country. Told them get out of the country. So they had to go somewhere. Now, that's not a direct connection, but you know what I'm saying? That is at the behest of that country, because they released criminals, told them to get out, and those criminals came here. So the Trump administration tries to expeditiously remove these people. Boom, nationwide injunctions. Democrats are getting on the side of criminal cartels and criminal gangs against the federal government, for crying out loud, against the interests for the safety of our citizenry. It's absurd. Then they're yelling, screaming, gnashing teeth about due process. Are you kidding me on this? These people, that is the due process, by the way, under the Alien Enemies Act. That you just get detained, removed. That's it. I'm sorry. We don't care about any immigration rights at that point. If you're committing crimes in this country, you deserve to be either thrown in jail, right? Go to trial. Do what if that's what the administration wants to do, wants to keep them here and make them serve time in our prisons. Sure, fine, whatever. But if not, if they just want to remove these people because our jails are packed, our court systems are backed up, that's a viable option. And that is not revoking any sort of due process, because sending them to El Salvador, they're going to get their due process over there. It's illegal to be a gang member. They were gang members in this country. We just ship them over there. Who gives a damn for people that are not of this country? These riots that are going on in LA right now are blatantly insane. As a matter of fact, I was going to cover it, but I'm not anymore because I found another interesting article, which, by the way, check out my next video. It's going to be fascinating. But Kamala Harris comes out and makes this statement condemning Donald Trump sending the National Guard. Huh? If the state and local police can't handle the situation, what do you do? The safety of the citizenry is the main concern with this, right? Any First Amendment rights, that comes secondary to the safety of the citizenry, right? When your freedom of speech gets in the way of the safety of the citizenry, which comes first? The safety of the citizenry or your freedom of speech rights? Because in this instance, one of them has to go. One of them has to be secondary. We can allow these people to riot because that's what they're doing. Or we can send in the National Guard to help the state and local police and restore order back to the land, if you will. Keep the citizens safe, then you can protest. But see, once again, it's not a protest. They're saying overwhelmingly peaceful. Under that vein, January 6th was overwhelmingly peaceful. Because if you look at the numbers, 120,000 Trump supporters showed up to Washington, D.C. And we know a couple of dozen people were convicted, were actually fighting with cops. A couple of hundred pled guilty to some sort of violence, not necessarily fighting with cops, but like breaking windows and maybe shoving a cop, blah, 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 blah. Kind of minor stuff, right? Nothing to the extent that we're seeing in Los Angeles. Nothing to the extent that we saw in the Summer of Love of 2020, which preceded January 6th. It's insane what these people do. They gnashed their teeth until their teeth were just gums about January 6th. And then they allow riots to break out and say, no, it's overwhelmingly peaceful. These people are insane. The Democratic Party is lost in the desert, if you will. They've been roaming the desert for years now. Don't know where they're going. They don't have a compass. They don't know what they're doing. They don't have a leader. They're all just a bunch of followers following each other. It's chaos. It's collapsed. It's insane. And then they try to come with some sort of legitimate argument that, hang on, these rioters over here, they're just peacefully protesting. Are you kidding me? Governor Gavin Newsom, they're all condemning the National Guard showing up to restore order. You know what that tells me? That tells me that they don't care about the safety of their citizens. That's insane to me. It blows my freaking mind, y'all. And I promised I wasn't going to cover that because everybody else is covering the LA riots. But, I got to talk about it. I got to get that out there because it's just absolutely insane what is going on over there. And it's not necessarily the protests that are that insane. I mean, sure, that's bad. But, protests turning into a riot, it's kind of par for the course for the left. That's just what they do. That's their shtick, if you will. It is the rebuttal of trying to restore order that is insane. It's Gavin Newsom, Mayor Bass, who, by the way, come out and condemn the violence, but said, hang on just a second, Trump bringing in the National Guard to quell the violence only is causing more violence. Huh? That's not how that works, by the way. When you start getting beat down with a baton or something like that, you don't get more violent because your protest is being broken up or your riot is being broken up. That's not how that works, by the way. Most people scatter. Most sane people would scatter. They would back off if they're getting shot with rubber bullets, for goodness sakes. So what are you talking about, Mayor Bass? These people have lost their freaking minds. That's all I can say about that. But I want y'all to let me know what y'all think about all this down in the comments section. It's crazy, isn't it? Just outright, blatantly crazy. Y'all don't forget to smash that like button for me. Subscribe if you like what you saw. Share this video all over the damn place if you would. That would be great. It'd be really, really good. Sign up, become a member. Help me deliver the best possible content I can deliver to you guys because you guys need the best possible content. It is what it is. Y'all let me know what y'all think. That's all I got. I want y'all to have a pretty good day and stay legitical. Peace.